My name is Brandt Redondo and the name of my line is Caribe. My inspiration started with my love of the beach and California and eventually transformed into this very tropical vacation aesthetic. I also knew I wanted to include Latin culture throughout my line, so I chose the name Caribe, which means Caribbean, as the name for my line, and I also chose a Spanish song to sort of represent that. The way I translated my inspiration into my clothing line was that I knew I wanted very versatile outfits that you could take on vacation. So with all of my different pieces and my different outfits, you could wear all of these for a day at the beach, but you could also wear them for a day around the town. The way that I would describe the person that wears my clothing is sort of like a free spirit, someone who is comfortable in their own skin and isn't afraid to be who they are. When I think of being on vacation, I think of being happy, enjoying the moment, and just enjoying the little things in life. So that is how I would describe the person that wears my clothing, but anyone can wear my clothes. What I learned from creating my line is how time-consuming fashion and sewing and creating your own line can be. You will not always get it on the first try, and it takes trial and error to learn.
My name is Dana Faust, and the name of my line is Rootless. My inspiration for the line came both from my grandmother and from the environment. My grandmother is the one who taught me to sew, so I felt an obligation to pay some homage to her through my line. A lot of the pieces in my line walk the line between classy and very playful, which is very much like my grandmother. She was a very strong woman, very classy, and she was not afraid to say how she felt, which is a lot of what you see through my line. And then my other inspiration came from the environment. I am going to be pursuing a career in environmental science, so a lot of the pieces in my line incorporate some sort of floral element, as well as using materials that are good for the environment. The person that I would imagine seeing in my line would be somebody who is very strong, is very independent, and they definitely are a force to be reckoned with. The pieces in my line can be used in different ways and can be mixed matched and worn to a lot of different events, because the person that may be wearing my line may be sprucing something up or playing something down and really uses their clothes as an extension of themselves and wears whatever they want whenever they want. Things that I learned from creating my line is that you really have to be flexible and trust where the creation is going. A lot of times you set kind of a schedule and you set up where you think things are gonna go, but as you create your line, the line really develops itself, and a lot of times you learn as you go and you figure out where the line is going as you're creating it. So you need to just kind of acknowledge what's going on. Don't get too erratic or anything, but definitely trust your instincts and trust where the line is taking you.
My name is Colby Jorgenson and the name of my line is Game Over. I like to gather a lot of inspiration. I mean, even from the title of my line, I like the vibe of like 80s video games, or just kind of like the 80s, and then also just like modern streetwear and how those things kind of tie together. How did you translate that inspiration into your clothing? I pretty much just took a look at basic streetwear and like what people are wearing out on the streets, and I like saw a lot of kind of reflective type things, a lot of straight-legged pants and like patchwork type things, and also a lot of like mesh type stuff. So I tried to tie that all into my line, and then I also, to like bring it in from the 80s type stuff, I mostly just use like the pant style that was popular then, which is just the straight leg pant, not super skinny but also not super baggy. So that's pretty much how like I tied all this stuff in. How would you describe the person that would wear your clothing line? I think that the person that's gonna wear my clothing would be somebody like me that like half the time wants to wear all black and like just go full emo, and then the other half of the time wants to blend in with the rest of society and, you know, like wear colors but like kind of still be different. So I tried to make it not like, despite the fact that it is kind of common colors, I tried to make it look a little bit different than what you would see just like at school. And what did you learn from creating your line? The biggest thing is definitely time management, and I know everyone says that, but it's very true. It takes longer to sew than you think it does. Even when you've been sewing for a long time, you don't really realize how long it takes to sew like a pair of pants.
My name is Mikhail Hazin and my line name is Admire. I got my inspiration from romance, creating a romantic theme. I translated my inspiration into my clothing by using reds, pinks, and satin material along with a floral material. Describe the person that would wear my clothing line as young and mature and having a romantic vibe. I learned throughout this whole thing that procrastination is not good, and I did procrastinate throughout making my line. But I also learned to cope with my stress and my frustration. And I also learned that I have more creativity than I thought. And I learned that I fell in love with fashion a lot more.
Rage on that beat, going crazy.
Hi, my name is Molly Wilkerson. My line is called Contemporary Art because my lineup of modern looks are so elegant they're reminiscent of art. Inspiration for my line came from my love of flowers and feminine fabrics. I wanted to create a formal wear line because I enjoy sewing couture type dresses. One of my goals was to learn how to sew men's wear as well as develop a new yet modern ideal of men's formal wear. Lastly, I was inspired by the simplistic details of contemporary art and I wanted to incorporate similar shapes and colors to my looks, with the intention of looking both elegant and unique. My inspirations translate into my line with floral fabrics and feminine shapes within the dresses. All the dresses I made are intended for special occasions, and I created my avant-garde to look like something you would see in a couture fashion show. I made 3 men's looks, 2 with blazers, and different styles of men's slacks. I didn't include many patterned fabrics to keep the look simple on the eyes and also help create a specific shape with each look. I wanted my men's looks to look cohesive and flow together. The type of person who I envision wearing my line is someone who appreciates more elegant clothing but has a young and fun personality. They are confident and they know they look great. While creating my line, I learned so much about menswear and how it is sewn differently than women's wear. I also learned some of the rules on how menswear should be worn. My favorite thing I learned was how to make a corset. It was very time consuming, but it creates a beautiful shape. Finally, I learned while creating my line how many different girls can have so many great ideas.
Hi, I'm Quinn Kelly, and the name of my line is Hellenic. I got my inspiration from the silhouettes and designs of the 1940s and 50s. I translated this inspiration into my line through both the silhouettes of my pieces and the design printed on the fabric itself. Now, the person that would wear my line is someone that yearns for an earlier time. I've been told by many people that I live as though I'm caught in a time warp. Well, I think this person would live right there with me. They yearn for the classic elegance of the 40s and 50s and would love to incorporate that into their modern wardrobe. I learned, most importantly from creating my line, creative problem solving. There are lots of things I didn't know when I started making this line, but throughout the process, through asking questions, through lots of trial and failure, I was able to find my own solutions to these problems, and that skill, I truly believe, is invaluable. Thank you. Bye.
name is Rachel Spence, and the name of my line is Desert Blooms. I got my inspiration from sunsets, deserts, and pictures on Pinterest. My inspiration translated into my line through the many colors of the desert and sunset. There's many pieces in my line that are thin and have straps for desert weather. The person that I would describe to wear my line is a late teen to mid 20-year-old girl that loves summer. I learned that it's a lot harder than it looks, and there are many steps, and it takes a lot of time to make each piece of clothing.
My name is Tushar Slicker, and the name of my line is Cottage of Roses. I got the inspiration for my line from my own aesthetic, and I translated it into my line by using patterns, styles, and colors that I think best represent who I am. I'll describe the person that would wear the clothing in my line as slightly old-fashioned, romantic, modest, and also independent. What I learned through creating my line is time management. Many of my pieces took a lot longer than others, like this one, so I had to learn how to manage my time and make sure I had enough time for everything that I needed to do.
My name is Yaara Triana. The name of my line is Unico. My inspiration came from my own lifestyle, the way I like to dress and the way I look at the world. How did I translate my inspiration into my clothing? I'd say I have a very modest lifestyle and like to be independent. I feel like the simpler the better when it comes to clothing, and I definitely feel more comfortable in it. My pieces are more modest and casual. I like more neutral colors, which is why I chose accented neutral, just to give it a pop of color. When I think of business casual, which is what I based my clothing line off of, I think of a woman who knows her worth and is on her own. I would describe the person that would wear my clothing line as young, independent, and confident. What did I learn from creating my line? I learned that ideas change, and that's perfectly fine. What you originally thought you were going to do ends up not happening, but you end up loving it anyways. Every project is just a matter of patience and finding what you really like in order to incorporate it into your work. I learned not to give up, love the process, and see myself improve.
Hi, my name is Zoey Tucker. The name of my line is eunoia, which is a Greek word that translates to beautiful thinking. I got a lot of my inspiration from elegant dresses and like dainty jewelry I'd see pop up in my Pinterest feed. I kept coming across lots of pearls and like gemstones, and I wanted to add those colors and like iridescence to my line. And then along with our trip to New York, I kept seeing dresses with like really fun sleeves, and I knew I wanted that to be a common theme in my line as well. I translated the inspiration I got from pearls and gemstones by picking fabrics that had like a satiny look or feel to them, or had like a glossy finish like a gemstone or pearl would. And then along with the fun sleeves, I just added some of my favorite sleeve styles to some pieces I had already sketched out. I would describe the person who'd wear my clothing line as a woman who's her own boss, who has an agenda while still wanting to look good and looking tasteful while doing so. Someone who wants their clothing to highlight their beauty without taking away or distracting from it. Through creating my line, I've learned that I'm easily frustrated and a hardcore perfectionist, but that it's all because I put a lot of heart into what I make. I'd love to make it more than just a hobby. It's one of the things I never seem to get bored of, and would love to carry it on through my future.